Now, if I haven't messed things up terribly, which I definitely did, there we go, fix that. We got the new Ting info facts at the bottom, and they're custom made for today's Ting of the Hill, a King of the Hill format tournament with several good games, 4 best of 5s in total. I'm Rifkin, casting with Zombie Grub, and spawning here on the bottom left side of Ruins of Endion, we've got On Fire's pink Zerg player, Scarlett.
In the bottom right, as the blue Protoss now on Team Ting, it's Neeb.
Were you watching the interview at all, by the way?
I was, yes.
So I love that Neeb did give up the On Fire tag, ex-teammate here of Scarlett, but kept it in a way. Is when you right-click to look at the actual team of Ting, it's Ting On Fire.
Yeah, I heard that part. And you called Scarlett, and then you were like, call.
Yeah,
so that must not have been a very long interview.
That's stream delay. Well, she didn't really want a long one anyway, so I didn't want to ask her too many questions.
Okay, whatever.
But she did say Neeb is looking to be ahead of a lot of the Koreans in her point of view, and I would certainly mirror that opinion. I mean, even disregarding the most recent results with the DreamHack Tour qualifiers and the WCS Spring Championship, Neeb was doing Warp Prisms before anyone else was doing Warp Prisms, and he was doing them really effectively. Now, she referenced Puck, and I can't completely disregard him here because he was also along those lines, but Neeb was able to get the results where Puck couldn't. So both really fantastic Protoss players, but Neeb is the one who's really coming out of the gate swinging with a lot of, well, everything he's been touching lately.
Literally everything. His hands of the Midas touch.
Yeah, except for winning in Protoss.
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, I don't know if you heard or they brought up in the interview or whatever that Neeb recently 4-0'd Hydra.
Yes, that was yesterday for the Gauntlet, and referencing how he beat Polt as well not too long ago for the DreamHack Tour qualifier, just showing that he is really a force to be reckoned with. Now, the thing that I really enjoy about casting about Neeb is kind of, again, going back to something Scarlett said moments ago, where he really does play his own style. Just because you see a robo come down doesn't always mean it's going to be disruptor drops, but with Neeb, when he does them, they look very different than when you see most Protoss do them. I do think it's interesting we got Ruins of Endion first. This is certainly a map I would have expected to see some quicker to Warp Prism play on, or at least a Stargate opening as he'd been doing. There we go, in every matchup. Interesting wall that he has here.
They vetoed Arena and Coral Hall, which I can't remember who vetoed who. No, I think that Neeb vetoed Coral Hall, so Scarlett vetoed Arena, which makes sense. I think she complained about it last time, like in the Lima League, like she doesn't like Arena.
Well,
so
it's interesting we have Prion then slip into the map pool after not seeing it at all for the last couple of days.
Yeah, well, of course, yesterday we didn't have it in the map pool, which is, obviously we wouldn't have seen it. But also during the European and North American qualifiers this weekend, there was a lack of just the old maps in general, and it's still kind of playing here with that veto on Arena. But that's also the Scarlett's personal choice. Prion will be interesting to see if Neeb can do that. I believe that's game 3, I want to say. But here we have something a lot more important, a lot more urgent going on, and that's,
significant amount of legs.
Yeah, despite going for what is a greedy opener from Scarlett, like, okay, I saw your third base, I guess you're not going to do anything, it's actually kind of a trick. Like, if Neeb does not scout these lings, he's in a lot of trouble, and, well,
so most Protoss right now are having to deal with a lot of Overlord drops in some variety. The Stargate opener helps with that. The Phoenix will take them down, but in this instance, Phoenixes are not going to be too helpful. Overcharges are going to get popped, and Scarlett's just going to back away. With the wall being as wide as it is, it's hard to cover all of it. That Cyber Core is going to get Warp Gate finished, but it's probably going to go down at this rate.
Yeah,
an Oracle or a Void Ray, anything's got to be able to help this.
That's going to take down the Adept Warp-In, so that's obviously a big problem. And any Sentry Warp-Ins as well, which might be clutch. Now, I wanted to note that Neeb did go for a diagonal wall-off, which is making this a little bit different than anyone else who had gone for a frontal wall-off. Like, he actually still has a wall to the top, which is a bit of a problem for Scarlett right now, and his Adepts are perfectly fine. They have that Nexus and that Gateway to fall back on, supposed to be... mostly partially surrounded.
Okay, I think that was supposed to be a full wall off with those warp-ins. The Lynx do manage to slip by and get a couple of kills at this rate, but Scarlett's only on 19 drones behind us. This was meant to dominate. Unfortunately, I don't think there is a fallback for this. So she's continuing to invest in more Lings. She's already torn down so much of this wall. And I gotta tell you, like, the SimCity planning out of Neeb was really cool. But the fact of the matter is, I think most other players are already dead at this point. Like, just to, like, slight miscontrol or what have you. Like, that Mothership Core's in 17 kills. She's still got an overcharge that Neeb's been a little bit hesitant to burn.
Yeah, like, if he doesn't need to, then he's gonna hold on to it. But this is probably game. I mean, Usually we see by now that the front doesn't work, so they're going to drop, or they get banelings as well, something we've been seeing a lot too. But just going for the old-fashioned Ling all-in works very badly against Neeb.
Well, congratulations to Neeb, who will take game number 1. Now, the nice thing about this is we do have... This is not the loser's pick scenario that we've seen a little bit more frequently on stream, but it is actually pre-vetoed, so we know all the maps ahead of time. And we'll get into this next one in a moment. I will say really quick, after this next game, we'll take a small break. Nothing too crazy, nothing too long. So, Prion is actually going to be the second map. Ooh, interesting.
Yeah. Scroll way up to get to that one.
Yeah. Bunch of chatty Cathys. Broken promises, Ting phones. I'm really excited. I've still got the SIM card I haven't taken out yet. I'm actually gonna have to get on a call with Jesse today or tomorrow to talk about activating this, because this is by no means an advertisement, just a cool little thing. So they gave us the SIM cards to use, and unfortunately Ting is only available in the United States. Living in Canada, obviously that doesn't help me too much, but going to Austin for a week, I'm hoping to be able to just put this into my phone and use this easy peasy. And then I guess this part is a bit of an advertisement, but just a cool point is that I do know from our advertising during the Ting Open that you can keep your phone number when swapping with Ting. That'll be quite handy. But Prion Terraces is getting into game 2. We'll see you guys in just a moment. All right, getting into game number 2 here for the Ting Open, or nope, Habits. Oh, for the Ting of the Hill. It's a bit of a once-off show match thing. This was, of course, something I had suggested to Ting, saying, like, you know what, there's quite a bit of downtime between Season 1 and Season 2 of Ting. We should do something fun that keeps Ting, like, in everyone's mind, but also is going to be, like, great for watching. And 4 best-of-5 show match style arrives. Now, this first round is only worth, I think, like $100 or so, but each best-of-5 is worth more and more. And the players who win are the ones who advance to keep playing in these best-of-5. So, technically, like, let's assume for a moment Neeb wins this first series versus Scarlett. Boom, that's like $100 in his pocket. If he wins the second series versus Huck, boom, that's $250 in his pocket, and so forth and so forth. Like, he could win all 700 whatever dollars the prize pool is today. So we'll see how he does. But off to a good start, up 1-0 in the top left side. It is going to be the blue Protoss Neeb, representing Ting.
In the bottom right, as the pink Zerg, it is on fire, Scarlett.
So I thought it was pretty cool that, and perhaps a little bit of pressure on Neeb, where Jesse had said at the end of the interview, basically, if things go well, like, there's potential for more players to be picked up by Ting, which is awesome, because it's been a while since StarCraft has had, like, a really major sponsor step in. I mean, you've had a couple of people picked up by teams that are more involved with things like Counter-Strike, like, for example, Masa and Elevate, right? But yeah, there's not really been a big new sponsor to StarCraft for a while, so this is a little bit of pressure for Neeb, because I feel like if he sets a good standard, we're gonna have more benefits for more players. But at the same time, like, I just hope in general the partnership goes well, because I like both Neeb and Ting, and I'd like to see them both succeed.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess just from the interaction with Ting, I mean, it'd be awesome to see, obviously, more players, especially, like, you know, the up-and-comer North American players on a team sponsored by Ting, but, like, I can see them very much, like, so, like, wanting to make sure that this relationship, like, works, like, 100%, like, you know, both ways, and really taking their time before expanding. They're pretty smart, and, you know, Neeb, I feel, is just, like, this perfect candidate, basically, that's not too often found for North Americans.
Yeah. I will say this, though. I really hope that they nail it with the jerseys, because most team jerseys do look rather silly, or do they just look like a copy paste of another team jersey? So Jesse, if you're listening, don't fuck up the jerseys, man.
Yeah. Well, I know he brought up, like, you know, the whole, like, how a King of the Hill works, and it was funny that Neeb actually asked to be on the bottom so that he could get more money. Basically, he didn't want to be the king. But it's, yeah, we probably just have drops coming in from Scarlett once again. But I was going to say that Scarlett actually was, like, all, like, you know, like, moaning and groaning about not being as worth as much as Bales.
Well, in fairness to Bales, he was restricted by time. He's in school right now as we speak. Like, he is basically, as soon as he comes home, going to play. So that was less about worth and value and more about time and availability.
Yeah. So back to this build here. It's going to be one that we see far too often almost. I mean, at least the games that we've cast, and like Pro League still has the old-fashioned Roach Hydra, and it certainly still Zergs are throwing that out. But a lot more obviously are going for some type of Ling bust, Ling Baneling drop, certainly something we see, as well as just this build, which has that +1 melee as well as Banelings. So it's not surprising.
It's interesting to me to see Scarlett kind of go for these more all-in builds right off the bat. I don't know if it says... I know for a fact she doesn't like Protoss, and fighting against Immortals and the late game of what is the Golden Armada, these are things she's not going to want to do, and I get that. But what I'm surprised is that her alternative for an all-in is with Lings and Banelings, and not instead something like Roaches and Ravagers.
I think this time it is just going to be most defensive with a little bit of aggression, as Lings are good at doing, just not that all in. But I could be wrong. When +1 finishes, we might see a swell of Lings and attempts to bust. But right now, just being attacked by Adepts, Banelings gonna do very well against that. Gotta still get a little more Lings, because it's possible the Banelings will not take out all of the Adepts, especially if there are reinforcements. But this is just a little bit of pressure from Neeb. Actually, it's not an all in for him either, and he's trying to get that third base. If things go well for Scarlett on the defense, like if Neeb runs his Adepts into a Baneling or into a corner, I think that she will try and counterattack.
Kind of like here,
yeah,
the spreads
a little
are decent.
bit.
The spreads are decent.
At least there's something, So these Adepts should, most of them should survive, although very little health, and that's where the Lings get cleaned up.
Right, and this is the other problem, though, too, that presents itself in Terran instances, except, Muta's here, where, if you split yourself too thin, then it's really easy for the Lings to get us around. When the Adepts are clumped and they've kind of got that Spartan shield effect going on, the Lings aren't that great. But as we saw, completely cleans that up. Other side of the map, Overcharge going to hold on to that third for the time being. Queen's going to try and push back the Warp Prism, and I think Scarlett's got it for defense. Now, the question is, can she apply the offense? There is +1, as you had mentioned before. Banelings can take down pylons like nobody's business. Same with Adepts. But there's just, there's not a lot yet, is the thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's a valid attempt to try and get this third base, but the SimCity's already there and the Warpins are already there, so I'm not sure if it's really going to be something that he can, or she can break. She's going to try. She still needs to wrap around on that Nexus, where the pylons are also denying. 2 of them are still up. No, that makes 1. That makes 0. The Warpers actually has to come back just with a little bit of extra Adepts. The Adept Micro coming down is pretty awesome to see. It's actually really awesome to see. Saves a ton of Adepts by doing that.
Is that, though, this is like a definition thing, right? Is that a depth micro or is that Warp Prism micro?
Oh, okay, it's Warp Prism micro, excuse me.
This is where this is where you cover your base, right? You just look at that micro and you just assume everyone knows what you're talking about.
Specify. Yeah. But before that cool trick, I was going to note that the fact that Neeb had any Adepts alive after the initial push is actually something we don't see from other Protosses. They do just give away all 8, or whatever Adepts, and they don't have this Warp Prism harassment. Of course, they had to bring it back, and that's another bonus of Scarlett's aggression, but it's still pretty awesome to see that there are things to bring back.
These force fields are actually fantastic, but the Baneling still got some pretty decent hits in there, so there's really... For Scarlett, she's running out of juice on the attack, but Neeb is holding well, and I think one of the things, Neeb's got so many units that are almost dead, but they're not dead, and that's the point.
Yeah, that must be very frustrating for Scarlett, but Neeb, I was going to say, is doing a really phenomenal job here. He instantly got that pylon replanted, so that 1 extra photon overcharge could be a really big deal. The Immortal obviously lives, not too great at taking down Lings, but if it's living and taking a lot of shots, then that's great. And Scarlett's actually in a pretty bad position here. We look at the army supply, look at the overall supply. It's not really that good, and her tech is getting better by getting Hydras, but it's still not super fantastic because it's not a big army, one that we usually see just overwhelm the Protoss.
I think the other problem too is right now she's not exactly super hurting on Larva, but she is kind of riding the limits of using them as she gets them. Now her money's starting to run a little bit thin and the gas is running a little bit dry. This is something where you got to look at the army supply number and consider it's not just that it's behind in the actual value, but despite upgrades, it's kind of behind in type. Adepts, I'll be the first. Scarlett will be the first person to tell you Adepts are broken. I'll be the second, right? But she's not got units that are particularly good against Adepts.
No. It is the Adept problem right here, because the Immortals aren't even being cranked out 2 at a time like we usually see, because there's really a point. Not really. There's no Roaches to take out, and the Hydras should be able to rip them in 2 basically. But if they are soaking that damage, if the Adepts are still the ones dealing that damage, then Ling Hydra, of course, is going to have a problem. And if she was planning on going for a lot of Banelings, because, eventually we still see charge lots come out from Protoss, well, that's actually going to be a bit of a disappointment. Adepts is his fodder right now, not Zealots, or Stalkers as well, as he has Blink. So, that's where, the Banelings, they'll still crash into things that are bulked up, and that's still good. Splash damage is good, but Actually, with Blink, you can blink in a concave. With Adepts, you can kind of, as we saw, micro them a bit apart. And of course, there's force fields as well. Like, not too many, but enough to make a big difference.
The income game's been pretty back and forth where a lot of this is going on. And not a lot of workers died, but so much emphasis went on this army, and Scarlett doesn't have the army. Neeb's just going to crush him here.
He could... Yeah, exactly. I was going to say he could use the hatchery and the force fields like we saw back on Overgrowth, and actually just snipe the hatchery. Instead, like, I think Scarlett preempted that. That's why she so quickly had units off to the right side. So she gets a couple through there, but obviously just not a big enough army no matter what happens.
Yeah. Jones getting pulled might be the best bet. She's going to disengage instead. Nope, going to catch the units with Blink. Lurker Den's so close to finishing, but this is a problem now where the Lurker Den's... Even if it finishes, it takes so long to actually make the Lurkers. The Hydras are all going to die, and it looks like Neeb's got game 2.
Oh, I said 3-1, but 3-0.
Yeah, maybe. I am going to send us off to a commercial break, though, guys. I saw a little bit of lag during that last game, and I'm worried because I did have some PC problems the other day that kind of followed some similar issues. So I'm just gonna go make sure everything's spinning and working like it's supposed to. So we'll be on for about 2 minutes while we get into game number 3. We'll be back ASAP, and we'll see you guys soon. All right, folks, welcome back. Game number 3 in this first Ting of the Hill series. Shout out to Ting for sponsoring this, and of course, with the upcoming Season 2 of Ting, which is still to be announced as far as dates go. Hope to see both these players come back for that. If you guys do want to check out Ting, by the way, make sure to type !Ting in chat. We don't have a lot of advertising to do for them today, but our promo code is still active. We are actually at like 60-something, I think, people who've signed up with Ting ever since we started Season 1. Keeping in mind, our goal was 40. That means we've gotten over 20. And it's a big part of why I was able to convince them to do an off event like this. So just know that even if you didn't sign up for Ting early and you still want to claim those deals, it's going to help push them to make more cool once-off events. Like whether it's Ting Season 2, the full league, or whether it's like a Ting of the Hill. I mean, it's cool that they're willing to do stuff like this because they see good results coming from BaseTradeTV. So thumbs up and high fives to anyone who's using Ting through us. But speaking of Ting, it's their player here in the top right. He's up 2-0 currently. It is going to be Neeb.
In the bottom left, as the pink Zerg, it is Scarlett.
So I guess today is like the new day of Hearthstone or something?
Yeah, I was confused, to be honest. I thought everyone was making a joke because, Overwatch went down yesterday, so everyone's going to Overwatch today. Or, sorry, Hearthstone today. But
well, there's like this
combo.
Old Gods expansion or something.
Yeah.
I don't know when that came out, but if that's today, yeah. So the authentication servers may be a little bit fucked, which, if that's the case, may cause some login issues with players as we go through the day. Fingers crossed it doesn't, but just so everyone is aware. But, okay, so Neeb in both games, what I find really interesting was I really feel like there wasn't really a lot of onus on him, but more so on Scarlett. Like, Scarlett was doing these moves that could have won her the game, but they also were going to cost her the game if her attacks failed, and they did in both instances.
Right. But here's the funny thing, is that usually, like, for a very long time, and I'll always be the one to bring it up, I feel like I'm making amends for how much I gave crap to Protoss and Heartless Woman Gravity, is that how hard Legacy of the Void can be for Protoss, okay? Like,
it's like shame.
Yeah.
Shame.
Dealing with all of the all-ins that Zerg have come up with, whether it's the Roach Ravager ones, the Queen ones, Overlord drop ones, like, so many, right? It's usually on them to have like this seemingly perfect defense, like just barely defense. But Neeb does it so well that it actually does make it look more like it's Scarlett's fault, like she's doing something bad, when we all know that what she is doing is currently like really popular and certainly works against a lot of other Protosses. It's just that Neeb, I mean, it could be that he's been waiting for this day. Like, finally, I'm so good against Ling and Banelings. I got this meta right now.
I've waited my whole life for this moment.
Yeah, exactly. Since like Wings of Liberty, the last time we saw it, or I don't know, but he's doing a fantastic job. I mean, and maybe he did prep for her a little bit. I mean, he kind of joked about like metagaming her in that first game, but he's doing a fantastic job, and he's making Protoss look easy, but I will be the first to say that they're definitely not in Legacy of the Void.
Scarlett also mentioned like she really wants to practice with Neeb, and unfortunately couldn't before this because she knew she had to get ready for this match. But I would certainly say, like, if there's one person you're gonna learn a lot from right now, it's this guy. And already I think displayed that really well, because a lot of these things that Scarlett's done, we've watched people in the Alima League, a Korean event. We've watched people in the Corsair Cup, a European event. Like, we've watched countless Protoss die to a lot of these same tactics. So you are correct when you say, like, Neeb's just making it look really good. It's not at all uncommon. It's not like it doesn't work. Scarlett is no dummy, and she's not picking bad strategies.
Yeah, but you know, sometimes she's kind of known for, like, you know, proxy hatcheries, shenanigans, and whatnot.
But proxy hatchery is actually legit pretty good, and I would have actually, you know what I would love? I'd love to get like a best of one, get Bly on, and say, okay, Bly, do this shit versus Neeb. And I want to see how Neeb holds against that. 'Cause Bly, shout out to Bly, by the way, we resubbed earlier. He's like we haven't seen him lose with that yet.
Well, so what is funny though is to bring up like this all in or the wonkier builds and whatnot, but I guess just any different build in general. Once again, we have a build that looks basically exactly like the last game, but even the first game was, you know, obviously purely Ling based and didn't work. So no change up. I mean, is that a little bit questionable for Scarlett, seeing how she was denied so easily by Neeb in the last 2 games, or is she gonna maybe change it up a little bit here and not be as aggressive with those Lings to the third base? I think. Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say her going for Banlings right now. I'm a little surprised to see her do this. Like, there's Phoenix right here, and obviously picking up a drone is a nice pick. But if you see something that causes gas on the ground so easily removed, like this is a free, very high priority target for those Phoenix, which are again right in her base. I'm surprised she did that.
Yeah, that was a pretty scary move, but I guess Neeb is going to pick up on it, even though they're going through the middle of the map right now. I was going to say, like, without the adept attack that caused her to initially make Lings and Banlings for the defense, I really did wonder if she was going to try doing anything offensive at all, but I guess she is. Unfortunately, Dusk Towers has an even easier third to defend than Prion Terraces, so I don't really know what she expects to do here. The SimCity's already set up, the army's already in position. No freebie third because Neeb's being a dummy or anything like that. And I guess this is just kind of yeah, she brings the Banelings back, which is, you know, my number one question. Like, why have the Banelings out there? But the Lings can stay out here and look for any attacks, and that's, you know, obviously fine. But Neeb he's got the third base, and Scarlett can't really do anything about that. But she can, like, start to out-macro him, which is what I was wondering. Like, just change the style, even though the composition is the same.
Yeah, just double expanding right now when you see somebody playing passive. It's a little bit bold, but the thing I do worry about is she's going to be coming up against what is going to be a fairly heavy Immortal army. I mean, double Robos this early, that's a lot of very quick production. That's not something that Scarlett's going to easily be able to handle. You could go mass amounts of Lings, and unless you're going, like, true style, like 100+ Lings, I don't think this is something you're going to run over too well.
Oh, true.
It's funny, because True would be the person to go mass Lings. Scarlett would be the person to go mass Queens. Like, there are a couple of oddball strategies from players that do work, but I don't think that's going to happen here. We got Hyde just finishing up here in a moment, so I'll give her some nice units to fight with, but it is about that Lurker Den.
Yes, it is. Well, it's back to what ZvP usually is, I suppose. Hey, Lurkers are out. Can you deal with Lurkers? Yes, no? Okay, die or not die. Unfortunately, that seems to be a lot of where it goes down to, is, like, can the Immortal control, I guess in general, be good enough? Can the timing be good enough for the Protoss to actually beat back Lurkers? And then after that, I once again feel like Zerg is at a little bit of a loss unless they can get to Broodlords, which might not be out of the question. I mean, Scarlett did double expand. She has an army that's probably comfortable enough to go up to Infestation Pits, especially as the creep gets farther.
I really like this Oracle coming out of Neeb too. Obviously, we're not thinking about time, stasis traps, and we're not thinking about, like, damage, but just that detection, that revelation is such a key aspect of the game. Observers are just, frankly, garbage and too easily picked off. So, well, even if it's not for Lurkers, which it most likely is, it'll be able to tag everything and see where the army's moving about. I mean, there's going to be like 100 Lings that you're going to have to keep tabs on here. You know, you don't want to lose sight of those for even a second. Yeah,
I mean, I do have to kind of bring it back to another player with the talk of Lings, basically. And that's Guru, actually. So we usually bring him up because he does, yeah, like 20+ Lurkers. But I remember when I first saw him do, like, the absurd amount of Lurkers, it was also coupled with emphasis on Lings. Before the Ling style was, you know, everyone's flavor of the month, he was doing it. And he was doing a lot of counterattacks, you know, and the Protoss player he was facing could not keep up the Lings. But just have a main engagement going down here Force fields are good enough to keep the lurkers out, but now might lose his third.
Right, and positioning actually for Scarlett's better, I feel. Like, she's not going to be able to set up this you can't come back to defend your natural situation. The charge lots don't get to soak the hits. The Banelings hit the Immortals. Splash damage going everywhere. Some of the lurkers do need to reburrow after being graviton beamed out of the ground, but this surround on the Immortals from the Lings is working out pretty damn well. It's taking them out. They're not even involved with the lurker fight.
Yeah, the lurkers are being dealt with okay by 2 Immortals and the Phoenix, but those Lings actually took down almost all of the Immortal counts.
Yeah, the important
Only one
units.
survives.
Scarlett really churning the heat up in this third game. Now, Neeb's still not out of this yet. There's charge lots are surprisingly effective versus lurkers. They're also getting slowly picked off by the Phoenix. This has certainly got to be annoying with no anti-air. So Scarlett's also got to disengage off this position. But this was something where she came in with what was. It wasn't the lurkers. Most of them were either in the air or unburrowed. That was primarily the Banelings and the Lings that did the job in this fight. And I hope she recognizes that, because if she puts too much emphasis on the lurkers, I'm worried that will actually cost her fights. So
she might put an emphasis on lurkers just because she knows she did take out the immortal counts pretty heavily and figures that lurkers could be okay now. Because if you have like 10 immortals, like, the lurkers really going to do anything. But, you know, despite losing so many immortals, he actually had 2 still alive. And, of course, he's had double robo production. So he's already back up to an okay count with 2 more on the way. And those phoenixes are still alive with enough energy to lift some of the lurkers if they're really that big of a problem.
Well, the engagement's going to go down. I got to give a big shout out to Ting Jesse, just resubbed to the channel. Hype! The Archons get picked off. The Hydra's going to push forward. There's no more buffer for said Immortals. And the Lurkers are really, again, they're almost like a fake. They're like, hey, look over here. I'm not really the threat, but you think I am? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Scarlett pushes in, and she's going to dominate what little is left. Now, that's not to say Neeb still can't fight this, but he's running out of his important units. As the Immortals start getting picked off, there's no way to deal with the Lurkers.
Yeah, maybe some of those really low immortals could have been pulled back to live another day. Because of course, once their hardened shield comes back, then they're once again very, very useful. But looks like you ran out of detection. So
Ooh, I really
little awkward to have 1 lurker left.
I like the high ground vision from the changeling. That's kind of nice. Lings were going to attack into this base, but I think if Scarlett pushed the production, I mean, the emphasis really is this is the 2 robos. This is everything for Neeb. If he loses the natural, who cares about a third or a fourth? Or excuse me, the third. It doesn't matter about a 4th or a 5th or even a 6th if you don't have production for that money.
Yeah. But as you've constantly been stating, it's less about the immortals and it's more about like the fodder that's going down to what Scarlett has. It's those charge lots that are going down too soon. It's the like Archons aren't really adding a whole lot, but he's holding on, okay, and that's pretty impressive for how many times he's gotten beaten back and for how much bank Scarlett has. There might have been a bit of a larva problem because she did have like 2,000 plus bank at one point, wasn't maxed out. And as she does max out, we do have to note the drone count for her is taking maybe not as significant of a supply away because Neeb's on a pretty high probe count himself, but still like a lot away from that army. It's a fair amount.
She's had the income she's been winning the income advantage for so long at this point too. But for Neeb, again, money doesn't matter. We'll see if production keep up. Storm's not done for this fight. Storm would make his life so much easier when dealing with it. The Baneling's going to crash in the front lines. Not quite going to hit any of the Templars, so those are still alive in the back end, but Storm is still so far from being done, like 10, 15 seconds out.
Yeah, what was also important is that they didn't hit these Zealots. They hit some on the top side, but you saw Neeb intentionally split and let those Archons soak the Banelings, kind of their job right now, even though they're also going to be useful versus the Lings and Hydras. Storm is so close to finishing. If he could back off once again, he would have it, but he's actually wanting to take this fight maybe. Well, the hardened shields are gone on the Immortals, so he does have to back off.
This is all Neeb's money. Scarlett banking up a bit of cash behind this. She continues to expand while this goes on. I really like this. She's not tunnel vision too much on this. Like, there is focus on macro back at home. But this is getting to that point where like all the Immortals are really low. Storms are finally done. No longer is she gonna have such an easy time taking on these fights, especially again emphasis on Storms. So is she thinking about that next step? Is there any transition coming to air? Like, where are the Broodlords at this point?
Yeah,
where are the infestors?
Yeah, the overwhelming amount of bank and, of course, the economy she intentionally got with 88 drones, you would have thought that a transition would have already come down, but I think she consistently felt like she was doing enough damage to eventually snowball, but Neeb has been clinging on for dear life and is getting to an actual almost max out point here with a very good army.
Yeah, there's something to be said, like players like Neeb and Mana can
Jesus,
play...
Banelings.
No, Scarlett just lost like 30 or 40 supply before the fight even began.
Oh, geez. And that's not even all of the storms. I believe he has 1, maybe 2 more left on some of these High Templars, so the Hydras are still in trouble. Wait, what Hydras? They're all Lurkers.
Well, yeah, pretty much. I was going to say, like, Neeb and Mana are both players who are really good at being put in a corner and somehow fighting in those situations. Unfortunately, Scarlett's transition to this Spire may be a bit late, but I do want to make a very important note and state that Neeb may be tunnel visioning a little too hard on the Lurkers and Lings. Now, whether this was Scarlett's intention or not, it may work out for her, because there's very little to no anti-air. There's not even Archons currently in play, so Mutas, forget Broodlords, Mutas could work.
That is a good point. I mean, she certainly could get enough bank just given a minute or two here. I like the Ling run-bys because I also really like Neeb trying to expand. A lot of Protosses would be forgetful at this point because they've only just been barely surviving, but he does need a 5th base as the main and natural start to mine out. She can take that gold base.
This is part of that delay. I didn't realize Hive. I just assumed Hive was done with what's going on. But Wall of Spine Cars coming down. We'll see if those mutas, she can make about 17 right off the bat. And again, the emphasis really goes, there's not much anti-air here. Storm is not good enough to deal with mutas. Even if you got like 30 of them.
Yeah. She might have simply, like, she might have also not realized she didn't really have Hive timed up with Aspire very well. We'll see, because there's only so much room in her supply for mutas. Oh no, it is going to be mutas, but it's only 9 mutas.
That's true. She's going to have to lose some supply. So these banding run-bys, almost catch a lot of probes. Get 16. That's not too bad, but we're kind of past the point where 16 is a big deal. You need to kill all the probes. Storm's going to come down left and right. Bandling's going to take out the Zealots. Mission accomplished. Of course, if you storm your own units, it does still hurt, so a bit of friendly fire going on with the Immortals, but not enough to matter compared to cleaning up all the Lings. Here comes that first sign of mutas, though. This is kind of important to see. She shows this early enough that Neeb may be able to actually react to this. He's got a starport back at home, starts making Phoenix right away.
Yeah. Immortal count's still going pretty strong, although some of them are missing their heart and shield, so they do have to be wary of those lurkers. I love that there's 3 oracles, by the way. There's like not like he's not running out of revelation soon.
They're actually all missing heart and shield, considering they lost the ability, and now it's called barrier.
Whatever, shut up. Face. Anyway.
But yeah, this army for Neeb does get broken. Now, as we see, Stalker's coming on the backside, like he was ready to make this transition, but it's not enough, and Scarlett will go fighting and take us to game number 4. GG. This was I really feel like Neeb. I want to just like nerd out about Neeb, but I really do like that Scarlett recognized where the opportunities lay in that game, and I don't know whether that was intentional or not to like trick Neeb, like mind game him into focusing on the ground units, but that tech swap was so sick. Like I really liked throwing down that Spire, recognizing the insane immortal count, knowing that there couldn't be that much anti-air, and just well done out of Scarlett. But that will take us to game 4. So 2-1 now, still in the favor of Neeb. Invader is going to be the next map. It's going to be an interesting one. This is not a great base for expanding too far on if you're not Zerg, I guess.
Yeah, if you're Protoss-Terran.
All right, folks, welcome back to the Ting of the Hill. This is the first best of 5 of the day. And he's currently representing his newfound sponsor well, as he's still up 2-1 in the top left side of Invader. It's going to be the blue Protoss Neeb.
In the top right, as the pink Zerg, it is on fire, Scarlett.
She handled that game very well. Now, I want to express this tournament itself is, for the most part, just a focal point on announcing Neeb joining the team. I don't think he actually has anything he needs to prove. He is already known as a really good player. So you could even lose here to Scarlett. I think that's still whatever, because for Ting, the point of this was get the word out about Neeb, and I think it has certainly done that, but also provide good matches, some fun stuff for the StarCraft audience. Again, like, this wasn't something they came to us about. We came to them saying we should do something really fun for the in-between of Ting Season 1, Season 2. It was really nice we could kill 2 birds with 1 stone, announcing Neeb with it. So I'm not at all worried for Neeb. I'm not making excuses or anything like that for him either. I'm just excited to see lots of good games today, because regardless of who wins this first one, winner plays against Huck, winner plays against Drunken Boy, winner plays against Bales. Like, there's a whole nice lineup of really good North American talent here.
Yeah. All your favorite North Americans, that are still playing. Asterisks. So we brought up Invader a little bit during the break, and how it's going to be hard to expand, actually, to any base, really, if you're not Zerg. So that third base is not so questionable for Neeb. You know, it's still like on a plateau, and there's like 2 inches into it. But the fourth base and the fifth base, you get farther and farther away, could be a problem. I actually see right now, if Scarlett was not already down 2 games, I would have seen like, that close by air spawn type, an Overlord drops potentially with a Ling Flood in. But as I said, I think that you would do that if you were up 2 games, not having already lost 2 games or you were too aggressive. And because it would have been like similar games too, where you're just being too aggressive and it wasn't working out. Of course, we also, no one ever really uses these rocks, but it is a point to note that if someone is going to focus on run buys or all-ins or whatnot, it's not just the wall that Neeb has right now, because that's a pretty easy wall to make. It's not huge, but there are rocks right beside.
I'm curious about what Neeb plans to do here, though. It's worth noting, I guess, real quick, that they did finally fix all the gold bases.
Yay,
so these have been resolved. You originally couldn't put, because of the bottom gas guys, are a base in a proper location. But this will certainly be unique if it goes to that factor. Now, you brought up the topic of drops and whether you do it in the score or the series or not. I still don't think drops would be a bad idea. She's going for Overlord speed, no evolution chamber yet, so it's just for scouting. And Scarlett has been real big on the whole Zerg player should be getting this early. There we go. Yep. So it is still going to be drops. Now, again, you don't have to do the Queen Ling drop version that's as if it were on Arena, but I do... Ooh. Neeb's setting up for an attack over here. I was going to say, though, it's still... you can do a non-committal version where you just drop Lings. Just get some harass, get over there and pull the probes off that mineral line. But this actually is going to be kind of dedicated out of Scarlett. She's continuing to produce Queens, but Neeb's going to also be kind of a bit dedicated. And hopefully in the right side of the map. If he warps in... all of his warp-ins over down here for depths, and then Scarlett hits him at the same time. There's no recall for him. He's going to have to try and, base trade it out.
I was interested to see how many gateways he would put down, because we see 4-gate adept attacks, not all the time, but, frequently enough. But there's, of course, the actual, huge all-in, there's, 7 gateways. Now, this is just going to be 4, so I guess it is, the fact is, one of those proxies, so that's obviously a little bit more dedicated, but, regardless if it's a little bit of pressure or if it's really truly an all-in, the place at which Neeb warps in is absolutely huge. You're right. And unfortunately, 2 are used here. He saw the Overlord speed, but you can't read that into it so much.
He skipped the mothership core for this time ago. That's the biggest problem with this. There is no photon overcharge in the defense, so every warp in is not just good. It's really important to note that anything not in his own base is going to cost him dearly.
He's getting a mothership right now, so he'll have at least 1 photon overcharge. And let's not forget that Scarlett is also dedicating her what would have been defensive Lings to offense. So it could be a weird, I'm going to guess, worker kill count trade, not really a base trade.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. So she is going to actually rally back with a couple of these, and Banelings are being made at home. This Overlord is still ready to drop.
I guess she saw maybe the lack of a mothership core, as you noted, because she didn't see any more gateways. But something alerted her to, take a chill pill and go back home.
Take a chill pill. I like that.
Yep.
Baneling's score is going to come in. Neeb does manage to barely escape them, but only to run into more Lings. Now, there's plenty of adepts here to fight, and that's fine, but once the Banelings roll in, this actually becomes a lot more favorited to Scarlett. As we saw, they took out those Lings like nobody's business.
Yeah, with all the Lings gone, there was something to make sure the adepts didn't split, so...
Does Neeb not see this?
Wow, that is sneaky. It's still, it's not raining down, from above, so Neeb will probably have at least a second's advance notice to split. But...
This is... Well, okay, here we go. The Baneling's going to walk in. She's going to split them 8. 4 to the main, 4 to the natural. Neeb...
I was wrong.
Not paying attention. Banelings go off over here. 8 kills. Another 10. 18 in total. Ugh.
Oh, that's pretty good, especially considering that... I didn't think Neeb was really that bad at the start, actually, despite having his adepts mostly pushed back. They didn't really kill any drones, but with 18 probes of his own going down, that does put Scarlett in a nice position.
That hesitance to say, bad, but, not have it misinterpreted by everybody.
Yeah.
Well, for Scarlett's sake, there are going to be Phoenixes picking up the Banelings, so I don't know if these will necessarily become a problem. But this is something where Neeb, if he had some continued adept harass, maybe he pays her back for this worker damage, but he does have to dedicate everything to the defense right now. We got an extra layer of a gateway and another pylon coming down. He knows that he's going to lose this front line at some point. Problem is, Mothership Core's got nothing to overcharge and nothing to assist in the fight with.
Oh, but the wall is still holding. Oh, never mind. That gate was going to go down real quick. The pylon wall has to come down. Another pylon, I believe.
Yep.
Another pylon, another pylon.
Ship weapon upgrades get stalled out. Maybe this goes down. I'm surprised he's not overcharging the pylon, though. Like, the Phoenixes aren't lifting. He's not overcharging the pylon. Like, he's relying purely on adept damage, which, don't get me wrong, is working slowly, but it's the risk of losing the cyber core.
He wants the energy on the Phoenix for the harassment instead of just wasting it all on the Ling pickup. And I guess, you know, off the chance that he's going to get 8+ drones from this many Phoenix with energy, as opposed to, like, saving his Cybernetics core, it was worth the drone kills.
No, it's worth it. I started, like, she went straight to droning. She went to layer behind this. Like, there's not a lot of army in play. If Neeb actually were to come across the map with everything, like, I mean, Adepts plus these Phoenix, I think he kind of steamrolls whatever Scarlett has. She's making a couple of Banelings down here. There's an awkward outpost, I guess you could say. But these Phoenix are going to just be able to do whatever they like. There's so many of them. I mean, we've seen games snowball where somebody gets 25 Phoenix, and you're like, well, that was a good game for the Zerg. Or for Protoss, I mean, excuse me.
Wow, even with the Banelings, it's still more complicated than it should have been to clean up this proxy. Yeah. The Phoenix are still picking up drones, rather. They are running out of energy. They didn't really have a lot to begin with, but still 7, I said like 8+, and they'll probably get there eventually. But that was worth the Cybernetics core going down. That stalled out his adept production for a little bit, but it's not like his adept production was his key focus here. It was about the double Stargate.
And he's still going a hell of a lot of Phoenix. Now, this is interesting because we've talked about this many times. If you're going to have an opponent who's going massive amounts of Phoenix, they're limited on their energy on what they can pick up. So lots of Lings are not a terrible idea. They can't possibly pick up all the Zerglings. But at the same time, lots of Zerglings won't possibly deal with all the Adepts either. So there's a bit of a catch-22 to this and how Scarlett handles herself. To go for the Hydralisks and the Hydralisk Den is certainly bold. We got a lot of Spore Crawlers coming down to help with this, but Hydra's going to come out like 1 or 2 at a time. They're going to get picked off. Neeb's going to have no problem with this Mass Phoenix style against what she's currently doing. This is awkward.
It is very awkward. It looks like they're leading the charge, but they're not. Well, don't go on top of them. It'll just explode.
Ah, I like this repositioning of the Spore Crawlers. Not letting Neeb just kind of sit there.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a lot of Banelings.
That looks really weird, too. Like, that looks like a growth.
Well, he sees that with the Phoenix, so like his Adepts might want to think twice about going in there.
You can just kill all the Overlords, man. Like, this is another thing, too. Scarlett's got them stacked up in a not great spot.
Pick them up.
Alright, so he's probably going to have to spread his Adepts over here just a little bit. Did pick up some of the Banelings, but not all of them. So there we go. We see this awkward split in the mineral line.
Yeah.
Phoenix is still just policing the naturals. More Spore Crawlers are made. That's worth noting. Those are more drones that Scarlett loses for every Spore Crawler she has to make. That's more money she has to dedicate away. I mean, this is something where Neeb is causing a lot of indirect damage and a lot of direct damage simultaneously.
Oh, little mistake with those Phoenix, but yeah, he's killed a lot of drones. I looked at the worker killed count, and it has gone in favor for Neeb. And I was wondering how this game is going to look. I was looking at the worker counts. It was only 40 when I last looked. Neeb has been producing probes as he realized he has an opportunity to take a third base here.
Are we not using the graphs mod on this one?
Oh, that must... I don't know why...
Habitually, you made the WCS one or something?
Maybe I did accidentally make the WCS one.
Because we've had to use the WCS one for like 2 weeks, so okay. I was like, gonna open up the graphs. I'm like, no, what? Did I break it already?
Wait, it's not supposed to be broken.
Yeah, I thought we fixed it. All right, so the mass Phoenix count for Neeb is kind of funny to look at, but we also had the Infestation Pit finish just now. There's a couple of ways to deal with this outside of just Hydras, and that's obviously, you get a couple of fungal growths on top of these. You even can go as far as getting parasitic bombs, but for the most part, Scarlett has no immediate answer to this, and this has really forced her to turtle in the most just awkward of ways. And Neeb is still, despite this turtle stance, he's taking advantage of it. Not through damage done on her side of the field, which he is doing, but he's expanded himself. He's continuing to advance forward. Double robos, because I think he's anticipating that he'll have to do a significant ground force at some point.
Yeah. It's sort of a wonky game, that third was very, very late for Neeb, but Scarlett, equally so. I mean, probably wants to go to a fourth base eventually and not yet on it. But one that now, as everything kind of settles, that I think Neeb's in a pretty damn good position. He has 13 Phoenixes now, as one died.
Yeah, he's only lost 2 overall. I mean, a little bit of complacency both times to the Spore Crawlers, but really not that big of a deal.
Yeah. And yeah, Scarlett had to make 13, I believe, spores. I guess he lost 1 or 2. In this game, and that's a lot of spores to make. I mean, our bases are pretty well protected, but
I think it's funny how this shifted though, because like Ling Banling all in coming your way. Last thing you think that anyone's gonna make work or Phoenix, but he does. Picks up the Infestor. That Fungal's going to hold him over top of the Spore Crawlers.
Geez.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, so he loses, what was that, 2-3 Phoenix?
It was 2, now it's 6 in total, so about 4 go down.
Oh, okay. So it's a pretty good Fungal, and that was just a bit of a surprise for Neeb.
Well, more than the Fungal, that's a lot of emphasis, by the way, on the importance of Pathogen Glands, because she instantly Fungal, because it instantly got picked up. Like, that was like both of them clicking as mad and furiously as possible.
Yeah. Well, the Phoenix have been the highlight of this game for quite a while, like the last 4 minutes or so, but Neeb is getting that ground army as well, and he's starting to get upgrades too, which were lacking as he got that +1 air weapon so long ago. Also getting pretty, I mean, that Storm's actually on the way here, and it's probably going to be done by the time a fight happens, and that could be not so good for Scarlett, basically, because she's not anything that can really withstand a lot of storms. She didn't even have lurkers.
Well, we already saw lurkers fare not too hot. I mean, okay, so much of me really likes the Infestors. I like the play of Infestors. Yes, there's the threat of feedbacks, and they can be useless, but for the most part, a couple of Fungals on even things like Charge Lots or Adepts just to keep them back. Infested Terrans create really nice cannon fodder. I'm not going to try and oversell the Infestor here, but I like that she has them opposed to not having them.
Mm-hmm.
Now that one Phoenix goes into Scout, I like this with the fear of getting Fungaled once again. Just playing it a little bit safe. 4th base from Neeb got taken while this went on. And back at home, I just want to note, we didn't talk about too much, but both players kind of had their upgrades stalled through all this harass. You know, Scarlett got stuck on +2 because no Hive Tech. Neeb had no upgrades for a long time because all his buildings were torn down. So he has gone back into trying to get that ground army upgraded. Oh, why are the Immortals? What? These are scouting Immortals?
He must have accidentally, rallied an Observer.
Okay, well, he's got some Storms. Oh, he could kill these eggs. He's got a couple of good Storms ready to go.
More than the couple. Of course, he has to be fearful that the High Templars aren't Fungaled and then everything collapses in on them.
This is interesting. I think he's actually letting her complete them on purpose because, it's a lot more cost-effective to kill a Baneling than a Cocoon, which will refund half of it when it gets killed/cancelled.
Well, Scarlett has a big explosive opportunity with these Banelings, although they don't have speed, so it's going to be a little bit harder to get those massive hits. But I think that overall, Neeb just has the better army, especially with so many storms. He even has a couple of force fields in here to help out if the Banelings get too close.
He wants those feedbacks. Look at that. Ugh, Space Slam.
That's one of them. Actually kind of, I guess, trying to partition off some of the Banelings here. Some of the Hydra-lings go off to that 4th base, which is not a good sign to see that mining, as she is herself only on 4 bases as well.
Storms coming down. Scarlett's coming from so many different angles, but there's so many storms available for every single angle. Fungal Growth lands, but not on anything too important. The Immortals can take those hits. He deals with all of the Scarlett left with 40 supply. What little's left is going to go down. GG. And Zombie Grub with that 3-1 prediction.
What up? I'm so cool. I'm good at this game.
Where's the victory dance, man? Do a little dance.
No victory dance.
Oh, okay. So you're boring is what I heard.
That's true.
Okay, so on deck next is going to be Huck. We're actually pretty close to being on schedule for this, which is kind of nice. I'm going to go poke him and see what's going on. We're going to go to a bit of a longer break here as we get things sorted and set up, so don't go anywhere, folks. Here's the wait screen. There you go. And we'll add Huck's name to it, or sorry, Neeb's name to it as he will advance forward. Now, I don't know what font they used, so I'm going to use my own font. Bibis. Alright, we'll make it grayish like what they've got. Wow, that looks terrible. No, I should not get into graphic design at all. No outline. Alright, there we go. Alright, that looks better. Alright, Neeb goes on to fight against Huck next. So, Neeb, to explain this really quick for everybody, has $100 in his pocket today. Win or lose any of these other matches, he walks away today with no less than $100. Scarlett unfortunately gets nothing. Big love to her for coming out to play, and I hope she has a great time practicing and getting ready for all of her future WCS adventures. But as said, we're going to go to a smaller break, so I'm just going to mute the stream while I get things sorted, and we'll see you guys in a few minutes with Huck versus Neeb PvP.